go. Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. So I'm going live, but I'm still trying to get myself together. Hey, Christina. Thank you for logging in. So I am trying something new. I'm trying to do live on Instagram and live on Facebook at the same time. So it might look a little bit weird. Plus I got some new lights. Y'all see me trying to move on up. I got some new lights. Because my office is in our basement, and so there's like no windows, no natural light, but it's already pretty bright in here, but I wanted to try something out anyway, and just to see if I could improve the video or the look of the video anyway. But I'm gonna get started because I'm really excited about what I have to talk about this evening. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Samantha Edu. I am a wife. I'm a mom of 3 daughters. I am a therapist here in the state of Georgia. I provide private practice services for women seeking mental health therapy. I also work full-time in a community service board, so I do quite a bit of things, but I try to stay away from the word busy because I try to manage my time pretty well these days so that I don't feel so busy and overwhelmed. But I am the owner of Therapy for Ladies. And that means I provide teletherapy services. My services are all online. Now I have transitioned to no longer going to an office. My therapy services are provided online. I am on insurance panels. I mentioned last week that my website is complete for the most part. It's going to be a work in progress, but it is available for people to view it, to schedule appointments with me, and for me to use and set up for our teletherapy appointments. So you can go to my website at www.therapyforladies.com. You can find me on Facebook at Therapy for Ladies, or in our wonderful Facebook group that you all are on is Ladies Raising Ladies. I created the Facebook group Ladies Raising Ladies because I wanted ladies that were raising ladies to have a space to talk about subjects that were specific to women that are raising women. I mean, I just happen to be raising all girls, but just women raising women in general. And the purpose of that was to find a way to break generational curses by creating generational mental wealth. I know that's a mouthful of words, but breaking generational curses by creating generational mental wealth. And if you were here when I started the videos, the lives last year, I talked a whole lot about creating generational mental wealth. So you know that I'm all about it. Like, I could talk about it for days. And last week I just kind of reintroduced Therapy for Ladies, and hey Tanika, I reintroduced Therapy for Ladies and also the Ladies Raising Ladies Facebook group. So I thought it might be appropriate for me to talk about the reason behind the idea of creating generational mental wealth. So we're going to jump right on in. So this past weekend, my husband and I teach the teens on some Sundays at church. So the past weekend we were talking about reputation. And we talked about the importance of a name in the reputation. In the discussion, as we were talking to the teenagers and we were talking about like different names in the Bible and what you think of when you hear that name, I thought about like growing up, my mom's maiden name is Jones, and so like growing up, we were the Jones girls. So when people would see me or my cousins or my aunts, anybody, we were the Jones girls, you know what I'm saying? And so what that meant is when we walk in the room, it's like the Jones girls are here, or here go the Jones girls, or you know what, and maybe this was like us creating this Jones girl persona, but either way, you knew when we were coming. Hey, Shamika. You knew when we were in the room, especially if we were all together. Like, you knew that the Jones girls was in the building. There were a lot of us, and there still are a lot of us. And I think so much, like, I'm so proud of the lineage that I come from when I think of the women in my family, the Jones girls. I think about, like, the women, all about their business, don't play no games, like, not here to play, up front, gonna tell you what it is, but so nice and so kind when it's reciprocated. Like, they're nicest people you're gonna meet, will give you anything and everything but about the business. But below the surface, as an adult, I'm able to look back now and talk to my cousins and things like that about, you know, just different things that are under the surface amongst like the women, you know, going back to my grandmother, great-grandmother, things that we know, things we didn't know, and we're assuming, that probably affect who we are today. And not always in a positive way, sometimes a negative way. When I talk to my friends about like how they grew up, relationships with their moms, and then their moms and their moms, you know, I noticed there's this theme of like things that, you know, went on in the family, or things that you learn as an adult about your parent, your mom, or your grandmother, or your aunts, and you're like, what? I ain't know that. Like, and you're just like, wait a minute. So nobody's gonna talk about this? Like, we're just gonna keep acting like this doesn't happen? Or, you know, it's just things like that. Or what about that dreaded time, like when your husband or somebody you know says, you know, you acted just like your mama or your auntie, or you acted just like blah. Now I see where they get it from. You know, it's like stuff like that. You're thinking, what is that? What did you mean by that? Where they get what from? Another thing that came up in my thoughts about like this reputation and the name, like what comes with the name. When people say, Samantha's gonna be here, and they're like, oh, Samantha who? You know, Samantha Edu. What is that person's reaction? You know, are they like, oh, cool, that's cool, okay, she's cool, you know, or are they like, I might come, might not come. Like, you have to, like, thinking about the reputation. So that is all in a name. So I say this to say, your name, like your first name, my husband tells my girls this all the time. He says your first name is connected to who you are. Your last name identifies who your family is. And so that's your generation. That's that generational thing. And that's what I want us to look at. What is the generational thing? How many of you can think about the relationships you've had? Like, think about your relationship with your mom, your relationship with your sisters. I don't have a sister, but like relationship with your sister. Thank you, Shamika. Relationships with your daughters. Like, think about these things and think about like some underlying things that, you know, you might have talked to a cousin about and been like, dang, they just ignoring all of this. And I'm ignoring it too, because, you know, I'm not trying to create waves, but what I know for myself is I don't want that for myself or my children, my daughters and their daughters and their daughters. So now we get into looking at how this occurs this rift, this wave over generations and generations and generations, because we didn't think growing up that that stuff was like coming up on us. Like, we didn't think, because, you know, all the women in my family are independent women. Who knew? I didn't know that I was soaking that up in a day, and there would come a day where I had to look at myself in my marriage and say, maybe I need to switch that up. You know, you have to think about those things. Like, I didn't know that that was like, you know, I didn't know that that was being ingrained. That's the word I'm looking for. I didn't know that that was being ingrained in me to be so independent that when the time came for me to share my life with someone, I wouldn't be able to do that. So those are the things that when I say create generational mental wealth, now I know that. Now I can say to my daughter, be independent, right? Be independent, but just know that there'll come a day when you have to share your life with someone, and you're going to have to give up some of that. There's going to be some give and some take. You won't be able to be in control of every single thing. So these are things that she's going to learn from me, and she's going to teach her daughter, and then her daughter, and then her daughter, and their families will be all the better for it. So we're creating generational mental wealth by increasing the positivity, like the increasing knowledge in our families going forward. So what I did was I stopped that curse. And I wouldn't say it was like a curse, like, oh my gosh, but I would say it was a learned behavior that I'm able to stop right now and create something new for my children and their children and their children. And that is so important. So what I want to do is talk about three things you can do to create generational mental wealth. Let me see here. All of a sudden I'm having some difficulties. Okay, 3 ways you can create generational mental wealth. So I'm texting my husband asking him to bring me my charger. All right, 3 things you can do to create generational mental wealth. The first thing is look at your past. So what I want you to do is do some self-reflection. Hey, Wendy. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Torian. Do some self-reflection. Look at your past. Look at the women in your family. Hey, LaShawn. Look at their behaviors. Look at if there were any mental health diagnoses that you know about, right? And then look at your family's reputation. Look at their reputation. So you're going to do a whole lot of self-reflection. That is the first thing you're going to do. Self-reflection. Look at your past. Look at the women in your family. Look at their behaviors. Look at your behaviors. Look at if there were any mental health diagnoses in your family, undiagnosed or diagnosed. And then look at the reputation. Like, look at the reputation of the women in your family. That's the first thing, because people always say, oh, leave the past in the past. No. You don't leave the past in the past. You learn from the past. So if I were to act like my past just didn't exist, I would have never realized that what I was doing by holding on to my independence and my need to control, I would have never recognized that that was causing the issues in my marriage. So you can't just leave your past in the past. You have to be willing to do some self-reflection and say, this is a pattern. Like, this is a pattern, and we can all talk about that. So the things that I say here are not things that we haven't talked about with my aunts and cousins and mom and things like that. We talk about these things. So we're going to look at the past. The second thing that you can do to create generational mental wealth is look at the current situation. That's right, Wendy. Learn and grow from the past. That's right. Look at the current situation. So we've looked at the past. Now we're going to look at our current situation. What are some behaviors that you find yourself doing today that might be related to your past? What are some behaviors that you find yourself doing today that might be related to your past. Okay, so I found myself. Oh, thank you. Can you plug it up for me? Yes. Oh, I have a charger. I got it. Thank you, dear. Hmm? Mm-mm. I don't. I appreciate you. Sorry, my tech assistants just helped me out. Now we're going to rotate. Y'all got to see my assistant at work. So you're going to look at the past, look at the current situation to see what are some behaviors that you find yourself doing that might be related to your past. So the way that you do that is, like, I find myself listening to my friends, listening to my cousins, just kind of listen to how people talk and what we're talking about, and if it is relating to me, like if something stick with me and I think to myself, dang, I'm gonna say this one thing. So let me preface this by saying we are all still a work in progress. But so the other day I was talking to my friend. She's on the live, so I won't call her out, and she was like asking me a question. I mean, it was something so simple, so I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, girl, you need to talk to your husband. I was like, what? And she's like, girl, you need to talk to your husband. And I was like, dang, thanks sis, like, get me together. But it's just things like that where I'm so it's like a thing, like I'm just like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And I had not talked to my husband, but it's just one of those things where I listen to my friendships and I know that the people I'm hanging around, I'm like, dang, thanks girl, like let me work on that. So look at your current situation. Take a look at what people are saying, like when they hear your family name. So I mentioned before, like when they say Sadine, hey Sadine, when they say, oh, Sadine's, coming, she gonna be here, what are people saying about you? Are they saying, oh, good, that's gonna be a great mix to the atmosphere, she's gonna bring something positive? Or are they saying, oh Lord, she about to come up here talking about folks? Like what are people saying about you that you know about anyway? Because sometimes you don't know that people saying these things. Most times you do though. So think about that. And it's not to say you're gonna change yourself based on what other people think about you, but you also want to be mindful of your reputation. So do that, and then be willing to address these situations by going to counseling. That's a huge one, because from where I come from, going to counseling is not always like this is not always what people are going to do. You know what I'm saying? There's very few people that's going to say, you know what, maybe I need to go to therapy about some of this stuff. So that's the first thing I put in your current, after looking at your current situation, be willing to go to counseling if you need to. 2, have some hard discussions with the women in your family. 1, to get clarification. 2, ask or seek forgiveness or seek some type of healing. I have so many women to tell me that, like, they don't know things. They feel like they could move forward if only they knew why their mom made this decision, why their grandmother made these decisions and nobody said anything, or why this happened and it wasn't ever discussed in the family. It just was swept under the rug. All they need are answers, but they won't go to the people that can provide the answers, because there has been this generational rule of silence, a generational rule of silence. And that generational rule of silence creates so much confusion and this dissension into your spirit. Like, it just stirs up the spirit, and you're not able to move forward because of that rule of silence. And you're wearing a mask around the people you should be able to go and talk to. So the first thing is look at the past. The second thing is look at your current situation. And the third thing is look at the future. Look at the future. So Tanika was on here earlier. Tanika and I were talking with our other friend, Misi. We were all talking, and she was talking about when I was younger, my mom and I would have a lot of arguments as a teenager. And so whenever they saw me on Saturdays, I would just be venting about these arguments, you know, and I was making a joke, like when she would drop me off, it would be like pause, and then when she would pick me up, unpause, like she jumped right back into whatever it is we were talking about. And I was just like, man, I'm so glad, you know, I can resolve these things and move on with my spirit. You know, I don't have to just keep harping on it. But if, like, what that makes you do, if you think about as parents, right? Think about the things that you have in mind that you don't want to do, that your mother did, you don't want to do them with your kids. Like, oh no, I'm not going to do that with my kids. Like, even if you don't have children, you have this idea of things you're never going to do with your own children. What it does is makes you look at things that could have been done differently through an adult perspective. It makes you switch out and adjust your parental lens. It makes you adjust the lens that you see things through. Like, what could my mom have done differently? Not looking through my teenage eyes, because that would just be completely ridiculous, I'm sure. But looking through my eyes as an adult woman right now, what could my mom have done differently? And how do I want to change that going forward with my own child and generations to come? That's what's important. Being able to see things through the future parental lens. Like, how are you going to change the next generation? And the next generation. And the next generation. That's so important. It's also important to be vulnerable enough when your children are age appropriate to take the door off the skeleton closet. Take the door off the skeleton closet. Like, I know that is so hard to do, but when you're an adult woman, you know, and you think somebody tells you something, you like, my mama did that? What? You have no idea. It's like all of these things start coming out when you're an adult and you're able to put pieces of the puzzle together from when you were a child. It does start to create a sense of, dang, I've been lied to. Like, why they had to lie to me? Like, all this time, why couldn't they just tell me this? Or I just went through this. It would have been so helpful to know that she went through this or they went through this. Instead, they were judging me. They were judging me about something that I'm going through right now, but they went through it. Instead of just sharing, I went through the same thing. This is what I did. It may not work for you, but this is how I got through it. Like, we have to stop. We have to stop that. Because the only way we are going to protect, create, and grow our next generations is by being wide open. Because they're going to have to look back at the past. And if they look back at the past and see a brick wall and a mask on your face, they're not going to know where to go. They're not going to know where to go. All they're going to know is to learn what they've seen you doing. And they're going to teach their children and their children. And we'll continue to have marriages that are not working, friendships that are falling apart, because these children are not learning how to nurture relationships, how to be open, and how to be vulnerable. So that is what creating generational mental wealth means. It's not just about me making my relationship with my daughter better. It's about me doing better for my daughter so she can have a better friendship, she can have a better marriage on down the road. She can teach her children, they can teach their children. These are the things that we are going to really have to focus in on. Like I said, I can talk about this forever, but I promise my lives are only going to be 20 to 30 minutes. But I'm just going to do a quick recap. So tonight we were talking about breaking generational curses to create generational mental wealth. We talked about 3 things that you can do to create generational mental wealth. Do some self-reflection. Look at your past, the women in your family, their behaviors, Any mental health diagnosis that you know about. Look at your family's reputation. Like when your family of women come in the room, what they saying. You know, think about those things. Look at your current situation. What are some behaviors you find yourself doing today that might be related to your past? Consider going to counseling. Consider having some discussions with women in the family that you haven't talked to because you didn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers, and Aunt JoJo might go off and Aunt Juju might stop talking to me and not come to Thanksgiving dinner. Throw all that out the window, because these are conversations that need to be had, and more times than not, they're willing to have them if you just open up the door and start talking about it. And then I want you to look at your future. So you look at your past, your current situation, and think about the future generations to come. What can you do now that's going to change generations to come so that we are creating healthy women who are who are creating healthy families. That's what I want you guys to really take from this. I appreciate everyone that has logged in and watched. Please share. I would love to see this group, Ladies Raising Ladies, grow. Please share the information. If there's other topics that you think I could hit on or you want to hit on with me, please let me know. Get in my DMs. You can always find me on this Facebook Live or Therapy for Ladies. My website is now up, www.therapyforladies.com. I appreciate you again. My name is Samantha Edu. Y'all have a great rest of the evening. Thank you.